frustration with the contractor, and it's increased a little the stress level out there. And on normal public works projects, these decisions can be made by the licensed engineer and so on. So that was the purpose of the CC06 as I drafted it, to give us a little leeway to make those decisions on minor issues. Are there any questions of me?
Yeah, I understand. There are a couple of council members, not sure if the questions are for you. You have Councilmember Hatley and then Councilmember Pittman.
Thank you. On the sewer line out there that we replaced or whatever, I understand there's a couple of 45s or a 45 in that. And it's my understanding they didn't take the old pipe out when they put the new pipe in. I'm not real sure why that happened, because that's normally not the way you do business. You normally take the old pipe out, and I'm trying to figure out what the contractor, why he did that, as opposed to like you're supposed to do it, because you put a 45 in a sewer line, it's just like when you put 45s in your sprinkler system. Every time you put one in, you have problems because it reduces flow and it does different things in the water line. Well, you can imagine what it's going to do in that sewer line. So now we have a mess out there with a 45 or two 45s or whatever's on it. So now we're going to get this thing done. We're going to spend all of our money, and then we're going to turn around and have to dig the street right back up because we have two 45s in there that are going to eventually, sooner or later, you can say they won't, but I'm telling you, I've seen 45s in sewer lines before, and they do cause you a problem down the road. So to me, I'm a little bit concerned about that. I'm not real happy about it because the job should have been done correctly. And how it got to that point, I'd really like to know.
Unfortunately, Mr. Dory can't speak to that because he wasn't here. A previous employee was here who made that decision, again, without talking to the rest of the sewer division about that. Again, Mr. Dory is looking to get credit for the pipe remaining there, for it not being taken out, the bypassing pumping that would have had to occur. If you disconnect the sewer, lay the pipe where it was supposed to be laid, again, and the contractor followed the direction of city staff.
No, I understand that, and I wasn't referring that it was, that it was him that did this. What I'm saying though is, at what point should we, if it's still, is it already buttoned up, closed up?
I can answer more to this, Don.
Sure.
Well, go back to my investigation of the records. When I discovered that it indeed had been bypassed, that section of pipe, and left in place, and probably the only reason for it was the ease of the contractor, his convenience for not having to perform that bypass pumping for that period of time. I sent a letter to the contractor requesting his costs for not having to remove and dispose of that existing sewer line and his bypass pumping effort. And what I was hoping to at some point see what that total cost figure was, because typically when you have the scenario that we have with the 45s, you get the sludge build up, it's a constriction, you'll have odor issues potentially later on. The fix would be to jump a manhole in, and I don't know if the cost savings are going to get us to that point where we have enough dollars to do that, but it was something I was thinking about and hoping to propose to Dawn later. With saved monies along the way, maybe it would be the point in time to put manholes in. But
Yeah, because, I mean, we can't leave it like that. I'm just going to tell you, because it's going to be a mess for us, and it's going to be a mess for the future. And we need to do it right. I hate to do things halfway and then turn around and say, well, we'll fix it later on. Well, then when later on comes, it's twice as much money or 3 times as much money, because now you're digging up street, you're pulling concrete, you're doing a lot of different things, disrupting traffic again. There's a whole mirror of things that are going to happen here that if it's fixable, we need to fix it, because it's crazy to put all this money and effort into this project and turn around and dig it right back up because we have a problem. It just makes no sense to me. Thanks.
Well, we can work through that and bring a cost back, and whether, again, depending on where that cost is, we'll let you know. At some point in time here in the next few weeks, they are actually getting ready to pave. So if you want us to do this, we're gonna have to do it now or very soon. So I will need direction, if you'd like me to do that, to do that.
Well, I'd like to know how much it's gonna cost us and just use some common sense and say, it's gonna cost us $1,000 today, but in 2 years, it's gonna cost us 10,000. I mean, I kinda,
It's
those
a good,
prices are gonna go up.
it's a good point that possibly with, the engineer here, that maybe we could look into that, because if it was done, secondhand to begin with, we should probably correct it now. Councilmember Pittman?
Well, I agree with Councilman Hatley's discussion, and if it was called for in the contract, then that's what should be done. I can imagine that we asked for a replacement of pipe and it should be replaced. That's just simple. The other comment I wanted to make is, I think it's interesting to note that the value of that intersection is being found by every day. I happen to be in the commute on certain days of the week, going over to Butte College, and the morning is absolutely crazy, and it's huge, and I think that we found out the value of that intersection just by the construction going on. So I would add that as soon as can be done, the better that it be, because there's a lot of folks that are really adding time to their whole effort, let alone the neighborhood that is impacted by the reroutes, and the bump strips are working, but as it continues, I think we may have to add more bump strips, because the flow of traffic in the whole area has just been widely disrupted. And so, again, I'll just emphasize, the sooner the better it gets done.
What was the reason that we put the detour in there rather than moving it up to by the gas station and going in front of home base and keeping it out of the residence? Was there any particular reason for doing that? Because that's the way I go. I don't go the other way.
Again, part of the problem here is CC5 is that they were supposed to stage this in 5 stages, allowing traffic to flow through the intersection. As you finish a portion, you
Right.
allow traffic to flow
Right.
there. Again, what we did was we decided, staff decided, and not anybody in this room, but staff decided that it was appropriate to allow this as 1 stage. Again, there's credit coming to the city. They should have done 5 stages. Now, they were allowed to do 1. They're gonna get credit for 1 stage and maybe some other components of it, but again, this is what has caused that problem.
But that doesn't answer my question. Can the detour go in front of the gas station and home base rather than down Fogg Avenue? If you go up to the next intersection, you're not in residential area. You're next to the freeway where you're traveling.
Talking about Home Depot?
Yeah, Home Depot.
I-
That street.
Yeah, I think the problem is everybody's making different choices, and they're starting to learn which way they can get through it the shortest way possible.
Right.
Most people, and I myself, turn on Third and go along back of Home Depot and then turn off.
Yeah.
Only because the intersection at Grand and Third is almost to the point where it needs a traffic control officer.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, it is
Right.
just literally crazy in the morning,
Right.
especially in that commute time. And then all the crews are getting ready. It's like, wow.
Okay, so-
Did we
But
know
there
what
are
nerve we hit?
stop signs there, and you can see traffic in all directions.
Right.
And it just seems like a much better choice to me, and it seems like we should move it up there.
This is gonna be done here shortly, though, so
We
I
hope so.
think everybody's got a routine down over the next few weeks.
It's not a
That
matter
will
of
live through
routine,
it.
it's a matter of safety, because you're taking it through residential rather than through commercial.
Again, that was the original issue on La Crescenta. That's why somebody rolled their car into somebody's front yard.
Right.
Again, we went out and put speed bumps in at the request of council, which we've done. We also didn't have any on Fogg, but we have put them on Fogg, and now people have slowed down.
Right.
The issue is really at Fogg and Nelson, which is a T intersection with a concaving curve on it that
Right.
is a real blinding intersection.
Right.
Again, we can tell everybody now to reroute, which I think will be a bigger problem.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting. It's just, we have a few weeks left. We all just hang in there. It's gonna get done, and it's gonna be good.
Hey Chuck, I saw your figure in there. Did you figure anything on those manholes, or are we gonna have to come back?
Yeah, I was looking, the contractor has an appropriate, well, I deem the scope is similar to what we'd be doing a price for a manhole of $6,250 each. So
And you're
that
gonna have to do two.
probably be in the general ballpark, so we're probably looking at $12,000 to $15,000 for two
And
manholes.
what is terrible here is you're gonna have two manholes almost side by side. You're actually gonna have four, because the pipe between the manhole structure and the 45 is about 5 feet. So, and again, maybe we make up the cost by, they didn't remove and they didn't do the bypass, so there's some savings there.
Yeah.
But if you're okay with us moving forward with installing two manhole structures with the approximate price of $6,200 apiece, we can do that. We can have them do that. The one thing that I haven't talked about is the water line. The water line appears to have been fixed. The problem with it was a gate valve. Again, somebody calls it a sweet spot. You can't crank it like your faucet at home. Don't turn it all the way
Yeah.
off, right? You turn it till it's off. And once you squeeze it a little more, you ruin gaskets and you ruin things. So again, they had a professional come out and really find out what the problem was. And again, I believe that is all taken care of now.
Okay,
It is corrected, and their inspection holes are being backfilled at this time.
I think for your direction, it's pretty simple. We don't want to have problems one day after the project or
Yeah.
10 years after the project. We want to have a clear shot at no problems.
so we want to
Are
know.
we okay to add that?
All right. Are we looking for a motion on this? Okay. Looking for a motion on item number 9.
So
It's
before,
gonna have to have stuff added to it.
yes,
So,
ma'am, thank you.
Move for approval.
well, it's got to have stuff added to it?
So it's basically, what we need to have added to it is the two manhole structures installed for an approximate cost of $12,400. So it's approval of what the staff is recommending here, plus the $12,400 for two additional manhole structures.
I'm
What-
sorry, I didn't remember your name.
Charles
But-
Dory.
Charles,
yes.
you had also asked about not going, on item number 6, not going over 15,000. Is that something you want us to address this evening?
Well, it was on, CCO 6 that Don had described the change order as addressing some drainage issues that we'd come back with price, but we don't want to come
Trying to
back
get
with
this
price.
done,
We just want a flat,
not to exceed
not to exceed
$15,000.
$15,000 for addressing minor drainage and utility conflicts.
So since it's here in front of us, since we've already had the explanation, since the engineer's here, does anybody have any objection to that at this point? So adding this,
6
Madam Mayor,
Six not to ex-
if
You
someone
read
would
it.
like, if someone would like to make a motion, it would be this. And I'm assuming what we've discussed here, or what I've heard here. It would be, you would approve the agenda, you would approve the agenda item as
percent.
written in the staff report, with the addition of change order number 6 in an amount not to exceed $15,000.
And two manholes.
That includes the two manholes at not to exceed
No, it's in
15,000.
Now
addition
that-
to. There's
What he said.
there's two.
two
There
items.
is.
Right,
One is 12,400 and one is 15,000.
That would have to be a separate
Okay.
cost from the 15,000.
so then it would be, then let me rephrase it. So it would be approval of the item as outlined in the agenda with the addition of change order number 6 in an amount not to exceed $27,400.
There you go. I'll make
Which would
that motion.
which would include the two
I'll
manholes.
make that motion as described by the city attorney.
There's a first.
I'll second that.
First and second, voting's open. All votes are in. Does anybody wish to change your vote?
And I'm not going in the manhole.
Voting closed.
This motion has passed.
Just make it happen, okay?
Thank
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
council.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 10, 2016-17 Leaf Pickup Program. Mr. Russ.
Okay, this is a pretty hot topic. I was interviewed by the news today. I'm supposed to text back whatever direction you give me. Again, they asked during that interview what the cost was, and I didn't have the numbers for them, so I just did some rough numbers. If we have 3 employees doing this, about $50 a piece for their salary, benefit, overhead costs, so they're about $50 a piece. Do 3 of them, per day is about $1,200. If you do that per week, and I'm sorry, I'm looking for my number, is about $6,000 for those to do that per week. And if you do that for a month, it's $24,000. Now, the leaf pickup program used to be a 4-month program. So again, we're spending, if we're doing that consistently for 4 months, you're spending around $96,000 or just under 1% of your budget to do this. We're suggesting to do this for a month in the downtown area, in the flat area of town, instead of up in the foothills
Right,
or out
right.
where there isn't catch basins or drainages like that. And I'd also, so it's, we're asking to do it for a month. If the council directs us to do it for additional months, that's the direction of the council. But what staff is really recommending to do this for, from December 2nd to around January 3rd. And again, during any storm event, because this was brought up when we talked about it during last council meeting, during storm events, staff is out anyway, not only just streets, parks, staff is out. They actually go to known areas that have drainage problems to take leaves and do that. Again, also, other areas in the city and even in the downtown area, we have green recycle cans that we're really suggesting people put their leaves in those cans. Ecology comes once a week and dumps those for us. Potentially, not sure if I can say this, but we're looking to maybe do some partnering with one of our partners here in town, looking at how we can do that where they can help us with this.
Right.
Right. So we're really looking at that as an option for the future, but I think we're really asking to limit this to about 30 days. If 60 days you feel is appropriate, okay, but staff is really recommending that we do this for about 30 days.
So if we don't do the leaf pickup program, what will the employees be doing? I mean,
Then-
yeah, but
Oh,
what-
many other
the
things.
parks,
Yes,
okay,
Yep.
so because we're down to 3 people in that department now?
we're down to 4 in parks. We were at 5, somebody just left. And streets is down to 3.
Okay. So anywhere where we can cut back to where people can be responsible for their own leaves, things like
Again,
that. I mean,
mo-
they
uh,
can't clean the public parks bathrooms, but they can pick up their own leaves.
Yes.
So,
And if we need more time, we can come back and
Right,
get
right.
it, so.
Any questions or direction?
Madam Mayor, it looks like you may have a member of the public that wants to speak on this.
You can come up here, sir. Just state your name for the microphone. Thank you.
Roger Edmondson. I live at 169 Morningstar Avenue. I have to deal with the traffic coming through the neighborhood through the roundabout. But
So
with
you're
the
gonna be really happy
with the
it's gonna be
green
done.
waste and the leaves, we have several large trees in our front yard, and I live on a corner. We have a drain, and the councilman's son lives across the street. His drain usually clogs up before our drain does. But if you're gonna stop the street sweeping, we're gonna have buku amount of leaves on the street. Last winter, they didn't do the street sweeping. We had people sliding around the corners, up onto people's driveways, up into my yard, because the street sweepers did not pick up the leaves. Okay, we can get away with that by putting those into green waste. Well, I have one green waste barrel. So if the garbage company wants to raise their rates, maybe they should send out extra green waste barrels to the people that aren't gonna be getting the street sweeping, especially people on the corners that have large lots that have a lot of trees. It's just a suggestion. So, I mean, otherwise we're gonna have, a lot more car accidents and whatnot from people sliding in the rainy, wet leaves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll keep an eye on that. We had an issue with the street sweeper last year, didn't we, or something?
Well, we got a new one, and we got a new one, and it something broke, but it has been fixed, and it is working again.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, maybe Recology could help with that. Are you coming up to talk on this, Sal? I mean, you're sitting back there for something. I don't know what it is.
Salvatore Cornelio, General Manager of Ecology, Butte, Colusa County. Just here to hear more about what's going on with the streets, with the leaf collection and street sweeping. We'll be talking to Don a little bit. I don't know what we can do at this point, but we'll look, definitely explore options. We do offer a second green waste container. The rates today, just to clarify, was just part of our CPI COLA piece of our contract to adjust for fuel and disposal and labor. But we'll definitely talk to Don. I don't think there's anything we do right now, but maybe in the future, we may have some options. So just want to, we're a partner of the community and just want to help out as much as we can. So that's why I'm here today, just to learn more about what's going on. Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Sal.
Yeah.
the second green waste container, there's no additional costs per
There
month?
is
Oh, there
an
is,
additional
okay.
fee. Yeah, there is.
What is the additional cost?
I think it's $5 per month for that container. I have to double check.
Okay, thank you.
Again, I appreciate Sal coming up and talking because he was the partner that I was mentioning, that I wasn't sure. I mean, I don't want them, and again, Sal can't commit to that, but I think we're going to have a conversation and see where we can actually maybe move this over to Sal, his whole operation, and the city moves out of it. But again, we need to work
Have
through
that
those.
conversation.
We need to work through those issues.
So bring that back. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we gave you direction, and we'll see if there's backup somewhere that needs to be handled as is.
Yep.
Maybe we can put something on our website that if people have issues with it, that they can call in and we can manage it that way.
Sure. One of the bigger issues was that it's really a leaf pickup program. A lot of people were throwing logs or other issues or other things into the street. So again, if it's just leaves, we can handle that for a month, and I think we can get it all. So.
Okay, moving on to item number 11, 17th Annual Economic Forecast Conference Sponsorship Staff Report.
Mr. Farley will give this presentation.
Is there any questions or comments on item number 11? Looking for a motion?
Well, wait a minute. I understand that this $1,500 is going to be paid out. It doesn't come out of the general fund. But then the very next item we have to go to the shopping center event comes out of the same fund for a total of $1,717. So we've spent $3,217 for two things here. We had $13,000 left in there. That leaves us $9,783. I'm just kind of curious because we never get anything really out of this conference. I know people like to go to it because it's a good way to hobnob, I guess, or whatever you do, and pat each other on the back for a job well done. But the problem that I see is we get nothing out of it. It's the same people that come to this year in, year out, and please don't tell me it's different. But and they drive straight off of Oradam, right out Olive Highway, stay there during the event, and leave. So to say that it showcases Oroville or it does anything for Oroville really doesn't. And we're supposed to be in this I don't know, kind of a partnership, I guess, with all these other communities and that. And really, if you were really going to do it right, you would have it in each community, one in Chico one year and the next year back in Oroville. I mean, but to spend this money and, I'm trying to see what the benefit is when we're in such financial straits. And I understand it doesn't come out of the general fund, but it's still public monies. And that always bothers me with this. And those were just my comments.
Well, in response on item 11, Cal Recycle, who provides the grant funds, wants us marketing our recycling zones and trying to bring businesses here that will use recycled content product. And one of those that did use that and really gained from the city with Sierra Pacific Packaging International, which is now GPI.
Right.
And
okay, but we're talking years ago. They just didn't come here yesterday. Look,
no, but they
it's the
came
same
here
people.
partly because of the program, and I can't tell you we're going to get a company tomorrow, and we don't really track it that well. We do the best we can to find out how some of these businesses find out about Oroville, but you never know if somebody's driving on Orodam out to the casino for the event, and they come back 2 years later because they saw Oroville, all our industrial land and other opportunities. They don't come in City Hall and say, well, I'm here today to build because I was here at the Economic Forecast Conference. And otherwise, these grant funds will not be used, and they'll go back to other communities that will use them to promote their jurisdictions.
I think also that, you know, the other key is GPI is getting ready to do an expansion, quite a large expansion, so that's gonna be another almost 200 jobs, I think, by the time they're done. So, I mean, eventually it pays off, and like the OEA with doing that work, it took almost a year to get that information together, which will be a great presentation for the economic, one of the many, I mean, and we're actually invited to be speakers every now and then, and I will say that one of the reasons that it still continues to stay in Oroville is because it's been such a success here that the first year they had it, it went from 250 to 300 up to almost 500 people attended.
And there's nowhere else, even at Chico State at the Bell Memorial Union, the maximum seating is 350.
Yeah.
And that leaves no room for the booths, for vendors, and it even makes it difficult for serving the meal. So we felt this was a great opportunity for Oroville to get this here. If the only other jurisdiction or city that can handle it is Chico. And I get the feeling that's kind of what people want, is to have it go back to Chico and not have these people coming to Oroville. And
No,
I think for when it's grant funded and one day of my time.
So, Councilmember Pittman.
Well, and that's the differing views that we can all have. You're never going to economically grow unless you don't market. And we do a very poor job of marketing Oroville in a lot of different ways. I think this conference is one of the good things that happens. And in terms of the discussion, I've attended not just the conference itself and the speakers, but the breakout sessions. I think are more valuable.
Yeah.
People will spend time to sit down and talk about issues and have open discussions about what could happen. Sure, it's a perspective deal, and it's very hard to narrow down. But when your community sees so many folks come into it, otherwise they wouldn't come. I mean, that's the draw. And
Yeah,
I've seen the draw expand itself to regional areas. I've had people from Quincy, Bernie, Portland, Oregon, northern parts of Nevada come and sit and talk at the same room. So, you know, it's a draw, and you do everything you can to make a draw. This year we'll have the Oroville Economic Alliance have a booth and have some presentation discussions and bring folks to the table to talk about it. Otherwise, you won't grow. It just is.
Well, we are competing against every other city, 400 and some cities.
Sure.
Right.
And they have marketing plans. You look in a lot of the magazines, they're putting advertisements in there. They're guaranteeing businesses that they will have their building permits in 30 days. The infrastructure is in. Mm-hmm. And we're talking, we don't even have sewer and water to these properties that the chamber's proposing yet. So we have a lot of work to do. And I think, getting back to that, when you're competing against these other cities that are ready to go, sometimes we don't get them for that very reason.
Right.
Mr. Rust.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, Mr. Farley may be a little disappointed when I asked him, or when we asked to have this continued and then brought back. The reason why I wanted it brought back was to really split some of this money up so that we can use it here up at the event up here at Gold Country, but also to use it for the next item.
Right.
And again, that really is to help market. Again, I think Councilman Pittman said it well. We don't market ourselves well. Again, this will allow us to have a booth that we probably should have had last year that we didn't. We had one year before. We were the only city at that point. Last year
there were 10.
Last year there were so I think we will be able to compete a little bit better. And again, all of that takes time. It does take time. And again, I use a bad word every once in a while, patience. Sometimes we have to have patience to be able to
But
have.
it paid off for us last year.
It has
It's paid off well.
Well, and I want to be clear, there's a difference between 11 and 12. 12, I can only use the recycling funds to pay the $250 booth fee. And I can't fund all of going to Monterey.
Sure.
This is a little different with a sponsorship where we get the booth, we get some
Right.
tickets. And when I have a booth, I don't just market recycling. I market all the city's programs, housing, the business loan. I'm able to answer questions as best I can with planning, or tell them, here's the cards for Don Rust or Luis or
Well,
Don Nevers. So it's a general information, it's not just recycling.
Well, it shows a partnership with all the other entities in the area that are trying to promote the area. So I think it's just the bare minimum that we're talking about, I think, and that we discovered it could be used from the grant program is even better, so.
Any other questions or comments on item number 11? Looking for a motion.
I would move the motion as agenda-sized.
Second.
All votes are in. Does anybody wish to change their vote? Voting closed.
This motion has passed.
Moving on to item
Thank
number 12, 2017 International Council of Shopping Centers event. Any questions or comments on item number 12? Looking for a motion.
I'll move that we approve the item as agenda-sized.
I'll second.
First and second. Voting's open. All votes are in. Does anybody wish to change their vote? Voting closed.
This motion has passed.
Moving on to item number 13, commercial lease agreement with Golden State Stoneworks LLC. Is there any questions or comments on this item? Anybody wish to make a motion?
I'll motion the item as agenda-sized, and for clarification, this is just a month-to-month lease?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
because we have the property for sale
Right.
and don't want to encumber that with a long-term
you.
lease.
Interfere with the sale that Turk was talking about, or?
No,
Month-to-month
it will not
lease.
interfere.
Voting's open. Is there a first and second?
I've motioned,
First.
yes.
Second.
There you go.
All votes are in. Does anybody wish to change their vote? Voting closed.
This motion has passed.
Moving on to item
Thank
number
you.
14, fiscal year-end review. Staff report. Ruth, did you have?
I do. I actually prepared a presentation for the city council. It's very short. Save the best for last. So on the staff report, you have the actual details of how we did so far this year. I say so far because it's unaudited. Our audit is not complete, and there could be some adjustments here or there, but I'm pretty sure this is the final. Oh, it's not picking up.
A little technical problem here.
Going into here. Oh, no, that one doesn't work. It's the tape one. Well, I have a handout.
We see the handout.
I have a handout. There's extras over here if anybody wants one. Oh, here it goes.
Here it comes.
Oh,
You can start with the handout, and then once it comes up,
Whose dog?
that's my dog. Here we go. So just a few slides to review the year end with the council. Well, it looks like we're gonna end the year with a surplus of $594,000. It's just a projection at this point. As I said, it's unaudited. I wanted to point out that when you prepare a budget, you want to prepare a budget for operating revenues and operating expenses. You never budget with one-time monies. However, we did last year a little bit, and I'll get to that in the slide. But our target is to budget only operational expenses with operational revenues. So what we have here is quite a bit of one-time monies included in our actual results for the prior year. Had we not received the one-time money, we would have had a deficit of $539,000 last year.
And
So-
so, I'm sorry, so when you say last year, I just want to
Oh,
clarify,
yeah.
because people are
Good
making
point.
notes out here.
Good
You're
point.
asking, is this for, go ahead, Don.
Again, this was important. I talked to Ruth about this. It is for fiscal year 15-16, which was last year. We are currently in fiscal year 16-17.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is, I'm sorry, this is a year-end closeout.
This is
Right,
the
of June.
June 30,
June
2016.
That's right.
So that money from June, and like you said, we plugged it in with one-time money.
Mm-hmm.
Had we not had that one-time money, we would have ended with the 500 and near $40,000
Yes.
in the hole.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. And
Okay.
now 6 months forward is where we are.
Right, but this presentation is just June 30, 2016. We aren't getting into any current year
Okay,
business. So the first thing we did to balance our budget last year is we identified some one-time money. So the thing that you're not supposed to do, we did. We identified one-time money because we wanted to start the MLE program. And we identified one-time money that we could get it started. You know, we thought there would be some revenue from the annexation, and we just really wanted to get this going. So this is what happened. We plugged this money in. We actually thought we were getting 738,000, and we actually got 682. The state didn't give everything that they promised.
right.
So that was budgeted one-time money. The next slide is what we did during the year. So basically, the other one-time money is just us closing funds. We closed Fund 100, the Community Promotion Fund, because there was a budget in the general fund that was also for economic enhancement, community promotion. So we kind of felt like there was two funds out there for the same purpose, and we wanted to combine them. So we went ahead and closed the Community Promotion Fund. It had $60,200 in it, so that went to the general fund. We had closed Fund 165, our contingency fund. That was a recommendation of our auditor. He said cities don't do that anymore. So what we did with the contingency fund is we closed it for $272,000. We transferred it to the general fund, but then we marked it as reserve. So it's there, it's in the general fund, but it is in our reserves. And the last fund we closed was 276 fund. It was it was for a debt service fund, and it had no activity in it for 8 years. So basically this money was just sitting there for 8 years. We identified it, we closed it, transferred it to the general fund. So just closing funds last year brought in another $451,000 to the general fund, and that is one-time money. That is not going to happen again this year. So altogether, with the top three are things we did during the year, the bottom three are the one-time money that we identified to balance our budget. So all in all, we had over $1 million in one-time revenues. So we have some options on what to do with our surplus. So without going into a lot of detail, what happens to our surplus at the end of the year is it just increases our fund balance. We have some choices, some options we can do with it. One option I identified was to transfer to the debt service fund. I think when we were in the budget process, I identified that our debt service fund was deficit, and it had been deficit for 4 years. And it's something that we addressed. We're slowly trying to increase the amount that we pay it back, but it is probably going to take 2 more years to get it out of the deficit status. Another option would be to take the surplus and just increase our reserves. And I have a slide on each of those, so we can get into further discussion. This is what the debt service fund looks like. When I started in 14-15, I went back and saw that it had been deficit for 4 years. And what is causing that is it's an incorrect percentage calculation that's included in our labor costs. So basically, the city went out and got a bond, pension obligation bonds, and we're paying that back with our salary and labor costs. And the percentage was never adjusted. And as the payment increased every year, we couldn't catch up with what we were paying out, so it went deficit. As you can see in 15-16, it went down quite dramatically because I changed the percentage. So you might notice that too in our labor and salary and benefit cost has gone up, but that's because we need to pay the bond back. And we're down to 134,000. If the council wishes to just keep on the track of increasing the percentage, it'll probably be fixed in a couple years. If the council would like, we could take 134,000 now and transfer it as of the end of the year and take care of that deficit right now. So it would leave the balance to work with, and that's where we get to our reserves. We had adopted recently, very recently, we adopted a reserve policy. Basically, we decided that anywhere between 5 and 15% of our budgeted operating expenditures for the next year is what we want to have in our reserves. So right now, with our reserve balance of 1 million, we're at about 8%. So if we increased our reserves to 1.5 million, that would be about 11%. So we're still within our target range. Some cities do a lot more, some cities do less. It's entirely up to us on what we want to have for reserves. I would recommend I would go with the 1.5 million and have it at 11%. There's not really any direction on this. It's totally is city by city and what the needs are of the city. So that would be one option, and that's it. So we're ready for discussion. If you want to talk about the surplus and what you want to do with it, if you would like to reserve it all, if you would like to put it towards any other purpose, or...
Is there any questions or comments from the council?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. In terms of our debt service, and let's just say, for example, if we use this $400,000 amount that you indicate as one-time money, and if we applied it to our debt service, what would that look like? In terms of, would you suggest it to be for the upcoming year of 16-17, or expanding that out over a 2-year period, or what would be the numbers to that? And let me ask you another question.
Yeah,
What is our debt?
Following that.
What is our debt?
That pays it off. The 134,000 pays that off.
It gets that fund out of deficit status.
Okay.
So
all right.
every year we budget our city debt service is a lot higher than that, but what is going out has been more
Right.
until this year, and we're trying to catch up to get that to zero. But
So are we talking about the loan that was made to improve the retirement process?
this one thing, there's several things in our city debt service fund, but this one thing causing this was our pension obligation bond
Okay.
that we did.
A long time ago.
Well, not too long ago. We have 8 more years to go on it. But every year the payment gets bigger, and nobody was adjusting the percentage calculation.
So I'm always of, if you've got one-time money to pay off a one-time mistake, that's the best thing to do with it. This is a deficit and it's costing us more money because we're in a negative situation. It's just, that's my opinion on that one.
Well, that's the same way where my question was going. So are you telling me that we can pay off the retirement bond?
No.
Okay, 8 more years.
Yeah, we're spending over 700,000 a year on our retirement bond. So this just means that the payment that we were allocating to the labor costs has not been meeting the actual payment.
Okay.
So we won't have that problem in the future
No.
because you've adjusted the percentage.
We've adjusted and we're watching it a lot closer.
So, my opinion is we should take part of our money that we have available and pay off the 134,182, because in the future you've already made the adjustment to the percentage, so we won't have that issue.
Clear that up. Anybody else have a problem with that? Yeah.
No,
So I would
I
move-
think it's smart thing to do. Just that simple.
So that handles that aspect of provide direction. So surplus to the city's reserve balance, does anybody want to take that on this evening?
She said something about leaving it there. You said that you would recommend, didn't you say you would recommend leaving it there?
What happens with the surplus is it's going to increase our fund balance. You can designate it as a reserve or not. So if you don't designate it as a reserve, it's just available for any purpose in the next year.
And because it's technically one-time money,
Yes.
that, once again, one-time money for a one-time rainy day, as opposed to spending it and acting as if you can hire somebody
Right.
after that. I believe, in my opinion, it needs to go to the reserve. We had already set a policy from 5 to 15. At one point, what did we have? 800,000 or $800 or?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
having reserves doesn't mean that we're flush. It means that we're doing the appropriate thing, and getting that in order with one-time money, I think, is the best
Yeah, and
choice.
my comment is, certainly it should be, to get rid of the 134 is a great idea. The question I have and ask at this point, and because I know we've been struggling with the city's equipment, could this money be used for a critical piece of equipment that we need? And if so, is there a piece of equipment you would suggest that be replaced? Because I know our city's fleet is aged heavily, and I'm just looking at a possibility that if we don't have good equipment, we can't expect our employees to perform, so.
For those of you that can't see Don's face, he's got a grin.
Can,
Like,
Can-
oh, I
I didn't talk to you about it, I'm
I
just.
could name a few pieces of
can
equipment.
I speak to that?
Yes.
Yes.
We have an equipment replacement fund. This is something I want to bring to the council in January. I want to tell the council how much is in there and any recommendations. I'm going to try to bring back my vehicle replacement plan that got cut out of the budget. But this is something that I want to bring back in January, what you're talking about.
Oh, I understand that, and I do understand
There is money in there.
we wiped out the fund as an annual contribution amount. I'm just looking at, as this is one-time money, and you pay down, with this debt issue, but also there might be some piece of equipment that staff would say, we've got to have, and I don't know what it is. I have no idea. I'm just saying, open the possibility of discussion, and I don't know, it might be, who knows what it might be, but, 'cause
I have another thing to throw in there.
Yeah.
I just went to a weekend training 2 weeks ago, and they reminded us, and I know you've all heard this already, but they reminded us that we are in our second year of being over in our recovery. We should have had a downturn 2 years ago, and we continue to have upturn, and the downturn is right around the corner. So I don't know if you watched the state's own budget, but I read the state's budget, and their theme was reserves. That's
Well, I understand that too, but I also know that many of our pieces of equipment have fallen out of legal status in terms of what kind of vehicle emissions they create and all that, and I don't know the extent of it, and I know we had the discussions about it, but I'm sure we have vehicles in the fleet that don't meet current regulations.
If I can make a suggestion, maybe what we do is we move it to the reserve now, let
Right,
Ruth,
and have the discussion come
and have
back.
the discussion in January, and if we need to move something, again, it'll give you an idea of what we have and what our needs are. Again, a piece of equipment that Parks is looking to buy is a chipper, but we have money in the park impact fee, I believe, to do that already.
fine.
But, and again, recently we bought a generator. The sewer department has bought that, so, again, and some other equipment for them. So they're pretty good, but they have a bit of a funding source there. And I think it's a conversation we have in January on whether we do something with a backhoe or something like that, so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I think that's a great idea. So it's one-time money, going to the reserves for now, coming back with
Presentation in January.
presentation for one-time purchases possibly in the equipment field. Okay?
This does request a motion.
It does. Moving money.
Yeah,
Super Huber. It's a motion.
yeah.
Okay.
We move it into the reserve?
No, you're,
Can I have a motion?
Ruth, remind them what you've asked them to do.
I'm recommending 2 things. The first thing is a transfer to the debt service fund for $134,000, And the second thing is to increase our reserves to an even 1.5 million to represent 11%.
Does that get rid of the exact balance?
No. No. It's not exact.
Okay, so I mean that, all right, but so it leaves a little in the general fund, or is it the opposite?
It's all in the general fund. It's just whether it's committed, reserved, or unassigned. It's just all we're doing is reserving.
Okay. Do you want to take that motion?
No?
I thought Phil was starting it.
Okay.
I move that we pay the 134, 182, and the remainder to go into the reserves.
Up to 1.5 million.
I'll second that.
First and second, voting's open. All votes are in. Does anybody wish to change their vote? Voting closed.
The motion has passed.
Thank you. At this time, we have council or committee report meetings. Some committee reports. Anybody? I have one.
Go ahead.
Anybody? Dave's always got one. Just for your information, we're gonna have how many linemen down here starting just before Thanksgiving? If everything goes well, it's going to be open. And all of these young people, maybe some older people, are going to be moving in. So we're going to have how many rooms, Dawn?
There's
tenants?
66 rooms, but I think it's 100 up to 120.
120 new folks downtown Oroville. I think that's just so exciting. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say. Go ahead. I'm not supposed to talk about the tour. It's booked. So I've asked. It's booked. They had a little VIP stuff, but it's booked up.
All day Friday.
Huh?
Friday, isn't it?
Yeah, somewhere. Don't know. Not supposed to talk about it. But
Yeah.
if somebody asked, I was supposed to say it's booked. But yes, they're having a few people. Some of the people that wanted to see it, they're having a little tour. Understand, but it's booked. So people that didn't get in, I don't want to disappoint anybody. So.
I do want to make a comment over the weekend, we had the retirement of Assistant Fire
That's
Chief
right.
Dean Hill, and it was well attended. It was a great event, and there was someone that I was with that said, I was retired 2 years before he even started with the fire department.
Is that Stan?
No.
Anyway, it was good. It was
It
nice.
was very
fun.
good, and he will really be missed. He was a great addition to our city fire and to the community, as far as promoting our community.
Dean
The
Hill's-
wonderful thing was his father was there too, who was also the retired fire chief.
Yep.
That's correct.
That was amazing.
Dean Hill is working on his golf game right now.
Oh,
Yeah, you better.
Don, does that upset you?
No.
Okay.
No,
All
not
I
right.
at
heard that was needed.
As long as he doesn't get better than Dawn, it doesn't.
Is there any other
Yes, I wanted
council
to-
members? Go
I
ahead.
wanted to mention our subcommittee meeting about the hospital and that
Oh, yes.
project. We should just mention it to the full council that we did meet on Monday.
the 7th.
Yeah, whatever, last week. I'm losing track of times. But I think that the hospital's application has been received. And then there is a return letter going back to the hospital on basically the requirement of information that's necessary to process their application. So,
If Mr. Pittman, if I can just add to that real quick, again, part of that is that we have received the application. It's not that the application has failed or anything, but as part of this Streamline Act from 1978, we're required to either accept it or not. If we don't say that, then after 30 days, then we can't require any more information. So it really is to allow us to ask for the additional information that we're needing to provide that. So, thank you.
the other item was, that we actually talked in that subcommittee meeting about the broadband issue, and I'm hoping Jamie can bring it up, but we've all been talking about broadband. It's a difficult item in our community. The California Public Utilities Commission actually has a map. There it is. Good job, Jamie. The colored areas show, especially in terms of, I think it's yellow, we simply don't have broadband access, period, for our business community. And that's an item that this council and this city is going to have to start working on in some way, either by way of vendor support or vendors getting out there delivering the service, because your business community is not going to come here if they can't get broadband access. And when you look at the yellow, especially there south of Oroville Boulevard, it pretty much covers the entire South Fifth Avenue Industrial Unit number 2. Clearly nothing in Industrial Unit 3 and at the Oroville Airport. Very limited areas that our broadband is provided. So I just challenge us all for the future that that's a big deal. And as the mayor mentioned, she's asked earlier about anyone that in the business community having problems. Well, there's no question why you're going to have problems, because you don't even have the service delivery. In fact, almost the entire yellow area is just, if they have it, it's dial-up modem. If somebody remembers what a dial-up modem
My
is.
business is right there,
Yeah.
in that yellow dial-up area.
The interesting thing, the California Public Utilities Commission has a branch of their service that distributes grants to projects for this kind of expansion, and that's why they have this map. They monitor. That's their map. They've created it and showing our deficiencies in the area. So this is not an easy access item. This is a tough one because the business community doesn't see a reason to expand. But technology is also another question that can be brought in here to deliver broadband to different sites. We've heard one vendor or one business, or Metalworks, their expense on it is outrageous.
Oh.
Where they are at scene, and
Yeah.
then they have to microwave it to another site.
It's
So
extreme.
it's extreme, and it's a challenge not just for us, but for all the businesses that are going to be out there, because it's really not going to come if you don't even have a wire to connect to the internet. So something for us all to be. I know Jeff was going to make a map to.
Well, they're done.
Oh, okay, you're already done then. Cool. So it's an issue to be looking at and address to the future.
The 3 maps are done, and actually we can show them to you, but it's basically based on this map here. And again, it's the white that has actually no service, the yellow is underserved, and the green is served. Though Jesse had made a comment to us that there's the green area there where the Corp Yard is, actually is underserved, is still underserved.
Right.
So again, we might be right on the yellow and green line
Yeah.
right there. So.
Well, and this map is produced by the California Public Utilities Commission, and they actually regulate broadband, which is interesting. I didn't even know they regulated, so that's something for the future to be talked about and work on.
Well,
Work on the
actually,
grant.
we are working on it right now, and I think the future is here, and especially with the Walmart going in, and that we missed that window because we don't have an ordinance that says that we put conduit in open trenches, although Councilmember Pittman has been around a long time. He knows where a lot of pipe is. He said he was going to work on that. But I would like to have something brought back to council about using some of the money towards the broadband after my meeting with Comcast this next week, and getting Walmart back involved to find out how much they will pay for a trench, how much Comcast will step up to the plate, and then how much we would have to do to bring it together on that, to get it to go down Feather River Boulevard, because it's just, and Cal Oak.
The ordinance should be here on December 6th. I believe Gary has given that title to Jamie, so it should be here on the 6th. Again, the ordinance is to say if you're doing new development, you're dropping in a couple extra pieces of conduit. So again, that'll be for the council to take the action on, and then we will bring something back,
Well, it's key that we get something in and Walmart not let this one slip away from us.
Right.
Because that's a huge piece of property, that it's like climbing up the wrong side of a mountain, trying to put it in there ourselves. So, with them still negotiating with us, I would like to see that come forward. So if we have to use some of the, infrastructure funds to help offset the difference of that $53,000 no thank you bid that the contractor gave us.
And there's also the grant money from the PUC that.
Right, exactly, and
that
that's why.
Councilmember Pittman was talking about.
This project here, though, might not be in time for that grant money. But if we could at least get the Walmart available, or get that one done, we can get some grant money and some of our money and some private partnership going from Feather River down, because Comcast is willing to do it, at least to the cemetery. So.
The other, and you know, it's gonna be an ongoing thing, it's not gonna be solved overnight, that's for sure. It's just, it's kinda disheartening to see how we're so underserved in our community. The other topic I wanna mention, the Chamber Board of Directors met the other day, and I presented if you remember the North State shooting project out on Rabe Road, and we previously mentioned that we did have a very good meeting with State Fish and Game over the idea of having a proper shooting range. When I presented it to the Chamber Board, just to make them aware of it, the two interesting things came up. One is Mr. Mosley from RCBS said, whoa. But the RCBS company had spent like $88 million into that particular fund that puts together hunting and safety things just last year alone. So their company might be very interested in helping partner with a shooting range and having reloading training facilities at that facility. And then Corey from the high school district indicated that he'd had some very strong requests to have a high school archery and shooting team for the high school groups, and they had investigated, the only place they could do it properly was in Lincoln, and that's just too far away for any kind of thing. So the idea of having it here in this county, Corey indicated he probably has 4 high schools that would be interested in having and using that site for archery and high school shooting teams, which is another possibility nobody had even thought about. So it's kind of nice to see that synergy developing. We haven't heard back anything from Fish and Game, have we?
Not yet.
Not yet. This week, I think it was going to be presented to the director. So just something to keep an eye out and watch for. So, and again, I want to thank Joe Ryan. He's been the huge leader on that project. I should mention he's got the operating engineers as the possible in-kind services for that grant project. There'd be a 10% requirement for matching, local matching, and the operating engineers are talking about moving their entire apprenticeship program here to do all the dirt and earthwork for that and the state vehicle recreation area. So you'd have operating engineers, local 3, has sent all their folks up here to review the site and to make suggestions. So there's a synergy there that could happen very nicely.
Okay.
That's it.
Correspondence, there's attached, hearing of individuals on non-agenda items. Is Shannon McGovern still here? Wow, you really hung on there. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Shannon McGovern. I'm the Community Relations Representative for California Water Service Company here in Oroville. And first of all, I'd like to applaud the city and the council for all of your cost saving and efficiency measures and efforts that you've undertaken. What I'd like to refer to specifically is the energy assessment program that you heard about earlier from ABM Building Solutions. During that presentation, Councilmember Pittman inquired whether or not an analysis of your water costs had been evaluated. And what his response was that he would recommend that the city consider installation of water-saving plumbing fixtures in all city-owned facilities. And I'd like to share with you tonight that we do indeed offer rebate programs for this, and we'd be very happy and interested to share what those opportunities and options are with the city and staff at your convenience. And even though all of the details are located on our website at calwater.com, you're always free and very welcome to contact me directly or our district manager, Tony Ruggles, who I believe most of you probably know quite well personally. We also, he also recommended that you consider a review, a commercial review. We also offer that service as well. Not only to the city do we offer this, but also to every residential and commercial customer in our service area. It's a comprehensive water use efficiency evaluation and a survey, which we obviously will provide at no cost. We're very happy to also provide study sessions for staff and workshops to review the results of that survey to see what additional measures the city can take, if any. And we look forward to reaching out to the city and seeing how we can help you in your efforts, in your cost-saving measures and energy efficiency. And I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? This meeting is adjourned. The next regularly scheduled meeting will be December 6th, 2016 at 5 p.m. Thank you.
Okay.
Congratulations. Good.
What is it you're looking for?
There's a lot.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
I said
Yeah.
congratulations to everybody on Facebook, but I didn't do it personally, so.